The day dawned not with a bang, but with a whispered conspiracy in the shadow of the Woolpack. Across the village green, a different drama was unfolding, one far from the aristocratic anxiety of home farm. DS Thea Ramsden, a figure whose sharp suits and sharper eyes marked her as an outsider, was in the village for a reason far more personal than the death of Dr. Caitlin Todd. In the dimly lit corner of a local cafe, she sat opposite a nervously fidgeting Serena Sugden. The air between them crackled not with friendship, but with the pressure of a shared dangerous secret. "You got the run of the place?" Thea asked, her voice low and measured, betraying no emotion. "It's not like I can spend every waking moment rifling through Kim's drawers, Thea," Serena replied, her voice tight with stress. "You said this was just keeping my eyes open." Thea's gaze hardened. "I know what I said, but I need more. I'm done waiting. Kim Tate is going down and she's taking her entire empire with her, and for that I need something solid. A key, a password, a thread I can pull. You're already inside. I'm going to visit that cavernous mausoleum myself." Serena protested, her voice a desperate whisper. "Kim's away at a business meeting. The place is crawling with staff. What if they see me? What if Graham finds out? I'm trying to stay in the Sugden's good books, not get arrested for helping you plant evidence." Thea's eyes flickered with a dangerous light. "Then don't get caught. Now, you're going to create a distraction. The family's also busy with this wedding charade, they won't be paying attention. That's how we win. We exploit their distraction." Serena, trapped between her loyalty to her new friend Charity Dingle and her long-standing friendship with the enigmatic detective, had no choice but to agree. The plan was set. Serena would act as a lookout while Thea slipped into the home of the undisputed Queen of Emmerdale to do some digging of her own, hunting for the evidence of a crime she knew was there. A short time later, the click-clack of Thea's heels echoed on the polished marble floors of Home Farm. The house, a monument to Kim Tate's triumph, felt empty and hollow. She moved with a calculated silence, her fingers trailing over antique furniture as she headed for Kim's private study. The door was unlocked, a sign of arrogance or haste. Thea slipped inside, her eyes scanning the room. She began rifling through papers in the desk, her movements swift and methodical. She searched for a hidden safe, feeling along the edges of picture frames and the backs of drawers. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she lifted the lid of a jewelry box, finding nothing but baubles. But just as she was about to open the top drawer of Kim's personal secretary, she heard the heavy clunk of the front door opening. Footsteps echoed in the hallway, punctuated by a familiar, sharp voice. "Honestly, Graham, the sheer incompetence of my staff while I'm away is, well, I suppose it's why I'm so essential." It was Kim Tate. She was back early. Panic flooded Thea's system. She froze, as if she could will herself invisible. Serena had failed. She had promised Kim was gone for the day. Now Thea was trapped like a fox in a henhouse, and the farmer had just come home with a loaded shotgun. She heard Kim's heels click closer. There was no time to flee. She was trapped. A shadow fell across the doorway. It wasn't Kim, but a sharply dressed man with a severe expression and eyes that missed nothing. Graham Foster. He had arrived ahead of Kim, alerted by Lydia, who had spotted the mysterious detective entering the house. He stood framed in the doorway, his presence effectively barring Thea's escape. And what would a police detective be poking around in Mrs. Tate's private papers? Graham's voice was a dangerous purr. House tours for the local constabulary are not among the services we offer at Home Farm. Thea straightened up, forcing a cool, professional expression onto her face. "It's a breach of protocol, Mr. Foster," she said, her voice unwavering. "I'm investigating the death of Dr. Caitlin Todd. I have reason to believe some documents pertaining to her may be stored here by Kim Tate. This is a legitimate police inquiry." Graham didn't move from the door. His gaze was unwavering, and he seemed to see right through her. "Is it now?" he asked, the skepticism dripping from his voice. "And not perhaps a personal errand with a less official purpose?" He stepped into the room, a predator closing in on his prey. "You're a long way from the police station, DS Ramsden. I suggest you leave before I have Mrs. Tate call the chief constable to complain about harassment. Let me make this abundantly clear. You are not welcome here." The cold steel in his voice left no room for argument. Thea had been beaten, her plan in ruins. She was forced to retreat, her mission a failure before it had even begun. But her vendetta against Kim was now no longer a secret. Part 2. The Cage of Love. As the huntress retreated, the beast of a different kind was preparing for its final stand. The wedding was a gilded cage, and Dawn Fletcher was the bird with a broken wing, desperate to fly. The previous night's tense stendu had been a terrifying close call. The memory of the rifle in her hands, the cold weight of it, and the brief terrifying impulse to use it still haunted her. Joe's performance had been perfect, a mix of charm and veiled menace that had left her feeling more trapped than ever. She'd looked at Joe across the field, and for a second she'd seen someone else, a man capable of cruelty, a man who had hurt the man she truly loved. But she hadn't pulled the trigger. Now she was more determined than ever to escape. In the cluttered chaos of the kitchen at Tall Trees, her heart hammered a frantic rhythm against her ribs as she finished packing a small bag. The hope in her chest was a fragile, beating thing. Today was the day. Joe was away, ostensibly confirming the final details of the wedding breakfast, giving her the window she needed. All she had to do was get the kids, meet Billy, and disappear. Billy Fletcher had just left a fraught meeting with Caleb Milligan, a meeting that left him with a deeper, more profound guilt than Dawn could ever imagine. To him, Caleb had been the architect of a beautiful, if dangerous, plan, but now Billy carried the terrible weight of a lie that made him complicit in forcing Dawn to run from the man she truly loved under false pretenses. He knew that Joe wasn't the one who hurt him, it had been Kev. But how could he tell her? How could he shatter her belief, her conviction, just when she was finally choosing him? He was a coward, and the guilt the suffocating. "Billy, the kids are ready," Dawn said, her voice a shaky whisper as she zipped up the bag. "Where are the passports? Did Caleb deliver them?" Billy opened his mouth, the lie ready on his lips. "Yes, we're good to go." But before he could speak, a shadow filled the doorway. Graham Foster stood there, his face a mask of barely suppressed fury and hurt. "Going somewhere, Dawn?" he asked, his voice dangerously quiet. "Dawn, Graham, I was just packing for the kids. They're going to stay with my mum for a few days." Graham's eyes flickered to Billy, then back to Dawn. "Don't lie to me, Dawn. Not now. I've known you for years. I taught you the business. I know you better than anyone, and a bird that's about to fly has a very particular look in its eye. Lucas told me." The truth crashed down on Dawn like a physical blow. Lucas, her little boy, had inadvertently betrayed her. She felt the bile rise in her throat. This was it. It was over. "You were going to run," Graham continued, his voice heavy with disappointment. "On your wedding day, you were going to break Joe's heart?" "Graham, please," Dawn begged, her voice cracking. "You have to understand. He hurt Billy. He's dangerous. I can't marry him. I can't. You don't know what he's capable of." "And Billy does," Graham shot back, rounding on Billy. "How does Billy know it was Joe, eh? Was he there? Did he see Joe hold the weapon? Or did he just guess and you decided to believe him, throwing away a future with a man who worships you for a guess?" Billy flinched, the guilt on his face plain as day. "Graham, it's complicated." "Shut up, Billy," Dawn shouted, tears now streaming down her face. "Joe Tate is a monster, and I won't raise a child with him. I don't care what it costs me. I am leaving." She grabbed her bag and tried to push past Graham. He was faster. He snatched the keys from her with a single fluid motion. "No, you're not," he said finally. It was a moment of pure desperation. A dam broke inside Dawn. She saw the plan, her one shot at freedom, crumbling to dust. She saw Joe's controlling, possessive love tightening around her throat. She saw the future she had tried so hard to escape. She looked at Graham, the man who had been her mentor, her guide, and now her jailer. The fury blinded her. Her hand shot out, grabbing a heavy iron shovel that had been propped against the wall. She saw the brief moment of shock in Graham's eyes, the moment he realized what she was about to do. But it was too late. With a cry that was half a sob, half a roar of rage, she swung the shovel with all her might. There was a sickening thwack as the metal connected with Graham's skull. He crumpled instantly, like a puppet with its strings cut, his eyes rolling back in his head as he collapsed to the floor in a dead heap. Billy stared in horror, his mouth agape. "Dawn, what did you do? What did you do?" he gasped. "He was going to stop us," Dawn sobbed, dropping the shovel with a clatter. Her hands were shaking violently. "We have to go, now, Billy, we have to go." She looked down at Graham's prone body, her breath catching in her throat. Oh God, I will tie him up. He'll be fine, she repeated as if trying to convince herself. It was chaos, a frantic rush of panic and adrenaline. They dragged the unconscious Graham into a nearby shed, binding his hands and feet with rope. Dawn was a trembling wreck, but she grabbed the keys and pushed Billy towards the car.
"We go to the Woolpack, we get the kids, and we run," she commanded, her voice high and thin, a woman hovering on the edge of a breakdown. Part 3. The Festering Wound. While chaos reigned at Tall Trees, the village was preparing for what was supposed to be the happiest day of the year. In the back room of the Woolpack, Joe Tate, immaculate in a perfectly tailored suit, stared at his reflection. He saw a man on the cusp of victory, a man who was about to claim the ultimate prize, Dawn. He didn't see the desperation in his own eyes, the possessive obsession that had turned love into a trap. Elsewhere, the atmosphere was far from joyful. At the Dingles, Kane Dingle was quietly trying to talk Charity out of her feud with D.S. Ramsden. But Charity was too sharp for that. "She's got it in for Kim," she scoffed, "and for some reason she's got our Serena in her pocket. I don't know what her game is, but she's trouble, the worst kind." The word of Dawn's escape attempt, meanwhile, had begun to spread like wildfire through the village, but not in the way it should have. Caleb Milligan, having just finished a meeting with a nervous Billy, had been in no mood to wait for the big reveal. The sight of Joe Tate, so smug and entitled, striding through the village only fanned the flames of his own deep-seated hatred. Their feud was ancient and bitter, stretching back to the days of their parents, Frank Tate and Frank Milligan. To Joe, Caleb was the illegitimate son of a man he despised. To Caleb, Joe was a